Hello everyone. In yesterday's session, I have explained you about generic with collection, and today in this session we will continue from there. Alright, and I will tell you how to create your own generic. I will tell you about polymorphism in generic and some more thing, right? The extends keyword or how you inherit in polymorphism or how you use the subclass or chat class or superclass in inheritance in generic. So inheritance is basically is a relationship, right? And if you have a object inside a class, then that is a has a relationship. This object has this relationship, right? So this is what yesterday we had seen. Before that, let me share my screen. If I talk without sharing, you will not be able to understand. So let me share my screen. Yes. So my screen is shared, right? This is what we did yesterday, right? This is what we did. Example of generic with collections. So I have done it with the list. You can use the same kind of generic with map, with set. You can use, all you can use in all type of collection. So let me now explain you something else. Something else that is the inheritance way of let's say when we are not using this generic, right? List string when I'm not using this one. So when I'm using not using this one, it helps me to what? It helps me to add any kind of when I'm not using generic that less than greater than symbol, it helps me to add uh, any kind of object to a particular collection or list, right? Any kind of object I can have it. So there is no specific constant that you need to add this. You can see from line number uh, 17 to 20, I have added string, I have added integer, I have added employee object. Now there is one more thing, there is one more thing I am going to explain you now about this generic. I did all control Z to bring back all the code. Yeah, the natural code, the original code which we had. So it came back. Now I will show you one simple example, right? So here in this generic, if we are if we are saying list, right? If you are saying list, or let's say how you pass method parameter. Let me create a method here. Public, let's see, static method. Return type, let's say void. For this we are seeing for the sample or for understanding the concept of generic. Here I'll pass, let's say list. I'll pass list, only list, list object, list, right? I'm passing this here. What I'm doing here, I'll just try to print SYSO print object list, right? Dot get. I'll only print the first index. To show the use of generic, I'm doing this, trying to make you all understand what actually things are happening. See here, I've used only list, right? In this list, if I call this method, you know why I have used static, so I'm not required to create a create an object of this main generic class and use it. So see, that's the reason I just made the method static. What I will do here, I'll create list. I'll create list like this, normal list, list equal to new array list. Simple, no generic. The old way of using array list, right? A for JDK 1.5. So this list is already created above, so I'll just add a s l list list dot add. What I will do to make our life cool. Hold on. I'll copy all this the parameter which I've added here, right? And I'll add it here. Add list here. Here also list. Here also list. Here also list. See, I'm able to add all kind of parameter. That's what we understood or we learned in last session. Matlab, I've explained you all in last session. Now what happened? I'll call this method and I'll pass this list. See, this method is happily taking this input parameter as list, right? So let me run this guy and show you. So now what we are seeing, we are trying to see or understand the polymorphism, right? This output is this top output is coming from the iterator for loop and the next one print Satya is coming from here, right? So what I will do here, I'll comment these for loops here so that we will only have the print down, right? So employee object is in index 4. So let's say that is 3 index. If I put 3, you will see it will print the employee. We have created an employee object in top, no, all is just like that, right? Okay, so yesterday we modified the toString method to get some random value. So see that random value is also coming, right? So we are able to fetch print inside this method, that is line number 49. Now just I will do I will try to use this as the object. I will use this as I'm using this as an object. So when I'm using this as an object, this list I'm able to pass because it's a generic list and it is similar to that. It can hold anything. I can pass it easily. And output is also coming, right? Now let's say I will make this also object, right? And here I'll make it employee. Is going to work? No. Yesterday I said this, or in this previous session I said this type mismatch cannot convert from array list employee to list object, right? So here it is not possible. Here it is always whatever you have declared, you should create an instance or object of that. If you have declared employee, then it should be employee object, right? If you have declared object, then it should be object. So you have declared employee, let's say, and I'll make it employee. So there will be no error. It will match. Now the thing here is what it is going to give me error in this all line number 36, line number 37, line number 38 because these are not employee type. I'm able to now add only employee type. It is making type set. It made this list type set. But if you see method list, it is showing error. But it is showing method list object in the type main generic is not applicable to the argument list employee. This list object employee is not applicable. If it is object, you cannot pass this. Now, if I make this as employee, it is fine. It will work. It doesn't have any issue. It is allowing. It is allowing to hold the object. So this is how it should be. This is how it should be. Let's say you want to pass some other object of that particular uh, inheritance. So let's say what I will do here to show you what I will do. I will create a person class. For example purpose, I'll create and I'll create a person class here. And inside this collection only I will create because the employee is there. Let me create the person there. A person class. I created a person class here and let my employee class extend that person. Let that employee class extend. Extending person. Now what I will do? This employee is child class of person, right? Employee is child class of person. Let me do here person, the parent class, right? And save it. Is it allowing to pass me this list? No. See, line number 42, still that error is there, right? Line number 42, still that error is there. It is not allowing us to. It is saying in the manual applicable is not applicable for the argument list employee. We are passing the employee, so that is the reason it is not applicable. If I make it person, then it will be applicable. See, now there is no error. My list declared or defined, the declared type of list is person and method argument or parameter that I'm passing, that is also list person, the generic is person. It is allowing, and it is allowing me to add employee also. It is allowing me to add employee object because it is the child class of person. In line number 40, I'm able to add it, right? If I go here in line number here, what I will do, I will try to add this, with object list. I will try to add one more parameter in object list in line number 50. See here also it is allowing me, right? So basically, since this list is of superclass type generic, it allows you to add your child type, your child type object, right? This is how it happens. But you know, let's say you have person, you have employee, you have employee, and you want to add, you want to pass, see your, let's say person can be employee, person can be student, right? I will create one more student. Creating to show you some examples. That's the only reason I need to create some classes here. Right. And what does it? It is public. There is a super class. Yeah. So super class, I'll make com dot example dot collection dot person. So this is what my super class. Yes. So this is what my super class. That means my person has two child class. One is student and the other is employee. So here in the main generic, if I make it employee and pass this method list, it's not allowing me to pass it. So that means I have to make it employee. But if I make it person, it is allowing me. See, there will be situation where you need to, have some collection generic and some method parameter where you need to, pass the child type, right? You can store it, you can access it, but it's not the way to do it, right? Just let's say you want to pass here, what is that? You want to pass student, all a student. You can do that, right? You can do that. You want to check it should hold only student, it should hold only student. Whenever I am whenever I am whenever I am calling this method, whatever we have in line number 50 with this method, I should only pass student object, not any employer. So what you have to do? You have to make this as student, right? You have to make this as student. You have to make this generic list as student, but you are not able to add it. Right? You are not able to add it. So for that, there is another way to do it. That is here. What you can do, you can use a wildcard here, question mark, and then you have to write extends person, right? So when you extend person object list in this way, what it will do, it will allow you to add student. So student will allow you to pass student generic into that particular method. It will allow you to pass student generic into that particular method, and it extends your person, right? So this is how you can do it, and you will be able to access also. See, I will run it. I will always take the first index 0. The reason behind that, I have not added many more object. Only one object I have added. Let me run it. You will see two string implementation of the method. It will print the two string. Right? See, it is printing the two string of the method. So what I'm trying to say, this is the way where you can use wildcard, extend person, and you'll be able to add person. Now let's say this object list, and here I will add student. Here I will add new student. What it is showing, the method add this capture extend persons in the type list. Capture extends person is not applicable for the argument student. See what happens here. You can add whatever you want before calling this method, that all student type can add to the list, and then you can call these methods. What it says, any class that is inherited from person will be allowed to pass as input parameter to this particular method. But while adding that same class, or while inside the method, you will not be able to add any child class to the collection. Whatever you want to add, if that method is inherited from the, okay, in this particular scenario, in this particular example, we are taking person and student. Since the student is inherited from the person, and my outside method, that is line number 37, that list is basically student, and in line number 42, I'm adding a student to that list. Since the generic type is student and adding student to list, it is allowed, and I'm able to pass method list to that. I'm able to pass method list to that method. But when I use this wildcard extend person, I'm able to do that. If I remove this question mark extend person, I will not be able to do that. So what it basically says, if this method is defined or declared, or the method parameter is using generic with a wildcard and extends person, in this particular case wildcard extends person, then what actually happens here, you can extends person, that means the class which all inheriting this person, if they are the generic type of the collection, then you can pass that to this method as a method parameter, but you will not be able to add it to the method parameters, right? You will not be able to add it to the method. You will not be able to add inside the method to the collection. You will not be able to add. This is one, blockage in this way of implement. There is another way where you are allowed to do that. In this particular case, let's say I will do list question mark extends. Instead of extends is another keyword super. So use super and make it student. So in this case, what happened? This is the reverse case. In this case, what is saying? This method will accept, or this method will accept any kind of collection, that, and that uses the generic type of student, and its super classes, student and its super classes, that it will accept, right? Student and its super class, not the inherited of a person, student and its superclass. That means it will also hold person, right? And here, let's see what it is doing. We are able to add student, right? We are able to add an object of student to this. So this solves the previous error, right? Extend error. You are able to pass, you are able to add. Let's run, let's run, let me run it. You see it is coming, and I'll put it here. One. Again, I will run it because I've added another parameter here, right? Inside the method. So see, this will also print. Yeah. So you got it. The thing here is now, let's make it student superclass is person, right? Let's make it person. This array list generic type person, and see what happens. See, I made array list generic type person, huh? And I am able to add student because student is the child class. Here, what I will do, I will add new person. It is allowed. Here, I will add new. Okay, already new employee is there. I'll just uncomment that. I uncommented new employee. Now I'm able to add person, student, and employee. Then I'm able to pass it. Right? I'm able to pass it to list question mark super student. Let me run it and then I will explain it. See, it is working. But here we need to be very careful. What? I'm able to add employee, right? And these all are types, right? So here in this method, in main method, whatever I'm declaring and I'm adding to the collection is part of the main method. And when I'm calling this method list in line number 44, what it will do? It will only check what is this list type. List type is person. And then it will go to line number 51. It will check question mark super student. Is that list type, that person is super of student? Yes, then pass it. It will pass. It will not check that it is holding an employee or not. It will not check that. So while doing it, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful. But if I say extends here, if I say extends person, right? If I say extend person, it is working and it is allowing me to add list and it is also setting, right? But it will not allow you to add inside the method. That is the problem. That is the problem. So here the only difference is this is how you have to go, and this is how, if you want to add in, if you want to add or manipulate anything, if you want to write anything to the collection, then you need to use wildcard with super student. And if you don't want to add anything to the collection, you can always go with the extents, right? And while adding to the parameter, while you are adding to the parameter of a superclass type generic, if you're adding child classes, you should be very careful what you are adding to that particular class. It is always better if you know that generic is going to wholly hold student. You should not do this way. You should always use student in generic, not person, and you are also generic student. So what will happen in case of employee and person? It will show error. So your collection which is you are holding before calling the method is only holding student, and the collection which are passing below, that is also only passing student. So the advantage of super is that in a situation or in a scenario where you need to your collection will be holding the say, student class and the super class objects. Then in that situation you can pass it, but you need to be very careful what you are doing, how you are doing. So this is what wildcard the explanation in generic. So you can use this for your uh, uh, implementation. Nowadays, Eclipse editor or any editor is very advanced, or they have some artificial intelligence also inside them. Earlier, we used to say they are automated. Now people are talking it is artificial intelligence, right? So they have intelligence. They have intelligence. No, earlier we used to say they are automatically able to check and compile. So that is now termed as intelligence. This IDE, they have intelligence to check, you know, your compilation issue, as well as they have now added intelligence with different kind of plugin to generate the code to give you the better efficient code for a particular situation and scenario, which you can use that to write the code. This is the concept of generic here. Now I will explain how to write the own type of generic, right? How to write the own type of generic with a simple let's go with this comparator, edge comparator in collection, right? We'll go with this edge comparator in collection. How you can write your generic, how you can create your own generic, right? So see here, this employee is comparator employee. I've explained in my previous session when I was explaining about comparator and passing employee. So rather passing employee, I'll make it T, right? This T is kind of template. I'm creating a template. After this, I'll give you another example where you can, use generic. I'll give you another example also. Just see how it can be done. So when you're passing anything in this T, this is basically what you are trying to tell. You know what you are trying to tell. You are trying to tell whatever I am passing here, and that will be a template, a an object what I'm passing while creating the instance of that particular class, right? So here I will say T. Here I will say T, right? So what happens here? This T is become generic. This T becomes generic, and that T will be used for the operation. You know, This is called a kind of template or generic which we are creating throughout this thing. What error it is giving? Okay, so see already T has implemented, comparator already has implemented its own generic. So in comparator is inbuilt class. We have to create our own class to implement. See, that is what I was trying to explain there. Oh, this I came to Java doc of the comparator class. See, it is using T, right? This T is basically whatever the class we are passing into that. If you have seen here, what I did in this comparator, I am passing employee, right? I am creating the comparator class of edge comparator and passing employee. So that when I pass employee, it will be employee, it will be employee. Earlier, if you don't pass this particular employee generic here, it will show you error in this line number 10. So what you have to do? Object. Here you have to make object to override the default implementation of compare method. But when you start using generic, it makes your life easier because as comparators will be called by employee. So better use generic. Use generic in defining the class. Defining the class or while implementing the interface use generic, and you use that in that method to implement it. So let's go and create one generic class for us. I was explaining about the external queue class, right? So let me yesterday I was explaining about this queue class. Let me write this queue class for you again and see how it works. This is data structure which you can always write. Which you can always write using all these kind of uh, generic type or so let's go to the generic. In generic only I will create that class. and I'll explain. Let's say it's my queue class. Simply queue. Okay, we're going to implement the queue data structure algorithm here. What is a queue? A queue is kind of a can say kind of a collection or kind of an array which has specific rule. That rule is fast in, fast out. The element which has fast got into the queue, that will be out fast. And for stack, fast in, last out. That is how it is. So see, I'm creating a class with queue, right? And what I'm trying to say, I'll pass here T. That is, type of object, right? So if you see where is this gone, I'm going to implement this total kind of class, and maybe the same thing you can uh, see it, right? So first of all, we have to identify what all method we will have in queue, right? What all method we will have in queue, and what all method we need to implement. Simply, we need to implement one method called queue and one method called dequeue, right? Queue and dequeue. The other things I will not implement. That is your work. If you want to expand your queue after certain limitation, you can go with that. If you want to don't expand your queue, you can go for that, right? So we'll implement this and we will test it, and then we are done with our generic, user type generic, or how you can create your own generic. We're done with that, right? So let's say where is that class queue here, See what I'm doing? I'm passing a template T. So T, you can use array list to store these queue values, or you can use array to store. So I will take the generic one. I will take a array, T array. I will initialize one array equal to initialize one array, right? This is the initialization of array. So what is this T? Will come to know when I'm running it. If you're confused, so just listen, just watch it, right? So what will be the queue? Queue will always start with the index 0. So start index will have one. Start index, right? So start index int. Start index will always be 0. So how many value my queue can store? So I have to put that int max size. Till what size I can have a queue, right? I will give default 20 value. I'll put default is 20. Now what else we need? We need to have a method called queue, right? That is going to insert into the queue, and we'll have another method. We'll have another method dequeue that is going to pull out from the queue, right? So let's go here. First, implement public void, because while insertion it won't return anything. We can have something like integer. If it returns 1, successfully inserted into the queue. If it is written in 0, okay. So see how actually we write the code better way. I will define here. Let's first define the method. Okay, how you can write Java doc also. So let's see queue. What it will take? It will take the object, whatever we are sending. This is our object, right? So we'll have return. If we successfully inserted, we will have return 1 success, right? Now I'm going to put a Java doc so that person will understand what actually I'm doing. Okay. So see, param t return it is given. Okay. This method, there are better way of writing Java doc. I'm just showing you the simple one. See how they have written here in Java doc so many things, right? So there are so many ways to um, write Java doc. I'm explaining you in a simpler way. So you can, if you're writing Java doc, you can basically look into some sample and example. Let's go back to the Q class and continue. See, this method is used to insert values into queue, right? Param T, use input parameters, input parameter need to be passed by getting input parameter, right? T is input parameter of type T, where T of type T, where T need to be passed, where T need to be passed during initialization of the no, if you're an engineering or if you're a computer application student, you can understand what I'm trying to do very easily without me explaining it. Return type int, you know, return type is int, 0, I can say for failure or failed, insertion failed. Here, insertion success, right? Now we have to insert it here, right? For inserting a value into queue, what you should look into? It should not have crossed is max size 20, right? It should not have crossed is max size 20. So what we will do if what? Tell me. This dot max size not equal to 20. So yeah, when you talk about 2020, what is that? In the year of 2020, what happened? COVID, pandemic, right? So max size 20. This dot max size is not equal to 20. Now what I have to pass here? What I have to do here? Tell me. If it is not equal to 20 and if it is equal to 20, what I have to do? If it is equal to 20, I will say system.out.println q is full, right? Q is full and return 0, right? Return 0. Yeah. Here what we will do? Here what we will do? Here we will add. So to add, we should know, is there any object already inside the queue, or it is the first object we are trying to insert into the queue, right? So what I have to do, I have not defined one more parameter. I can define one more parameter, count count equal to 0, right? Initially it will be 0. So what we'll do, this dot arr, right? We'll put it count, count, count equal to t, right? We added t. And then what we will do, this dot count plus plus. This is how we're increasing the count, right? So how you will come to know max size is not equal to 20? So here, rather doing this dot max size will come to this side. and here this dot count is not equal to 20. Go and insert. No, that's how it is. So Q insertion is done, right? So let's write the DQ method and then we'll go and execute. So DQ, what it will do? It will return or it will pull out the object. Fast insert. Fast insertion is basically fast in, fast out, which has got inserted fast. That should come out fast, right? That means we'll always retrieve from the 0 or 20, which is got inserted fast. 0 got inserted fast, so we'll always retrieve 0 fast. Right? So public, okay, what it will return? It will return, that particular object T, Q, DQ, right? This is the method. Here, no input parameter. Input parameter is not required. Return, right? The object, or we can write small t, equal to this dot array, right? This dot array and 0. Right? Going to return the first element. The number of time you call, it will return number of time that element, right? Always will DQ 0. Is that right? Tell me, is that right? No. So here we'll have one int, because always if you are retrieving 0, it is going to return the same element again and again, right? So either you can take one more count here, count, dq count, dq count, or what you can do, you can always make this array reduce. It is always to make this array reduce, because one count or one element has been removed from the queue. So queue is not full. Queue is having one more. Queue is having one more. Queue can accommodate one more object. So that will be proper way of implementation, right? Rather having this count. So what you will do here, we'll write an algorithm which will shift all the element forward one, right? So what we will do, for iterate over an array, right? So that is array dot length. Here what we will do, this dot array equal to, what we will do, tell me what next I should do. This dot array equal to this dot array, this dot array of I, right? I is basically 0, is equal to this dot array of I plus 1, right? That I should do it here. So this is a very simple and easy implementation I am doing. You all can do that. So before doing that, here, now you need to have another check before getting into array. If the array is if the array is not having any element, then what you will do? You can't DQ, right? This dot array dot length is equal to not equal to 0. Then do this, right? Else, see, this is all I'm doing after a long time. I don't know. Else, what you should do here? Else, what you should do? Tell me. Else, just print queue is empty. Right? Queue is empty, so we cannot remove or cannot do dq. Queue is empty, and then you return null. Right? Then you will return null. If it is not equal to 0, the length is not equal to 0, or if it is 1, that means you have the element in the array. Right? Now here, that is this dot array will be 0. So first element will retrieve. After retrieving the first element, what we will do? We will have a loop to move all the element, a bit forward. That means 1 will become 0 at index, 2 will become 1 index, 3 will become 2 index, 4 will become 3. So like that we will become, like that we will do, right? So see, this is what I have done in that fashion. This is what I have done in that fashion, and I am not required to here check max size, because max size checking is basically for the insertion, but while deleting or while removing the value from the queue, we need to check the minimum, that is the 0. If it is not 0, then we will minimum it, or if it is, if it is not 0, we'll remove. If it is 0, we'll say it is empty. But one more thing here is, now we have removed everything, right? We moved back. We removed one element and we removed back. And then we should not forget to reduce the count. To reduce the count here. Reduce the count also, because one element is removed. So the count should be one less. So this is what your implementation of, this is what the implementation of what? This is what the implementation of, tell me. Your DQ method. T T equal to null. Right? T equal to null. So delete this guy. So if it is empty, it will return null. If it is having some element, it will return T. This is a simple implementation of DQ method. So here also in DQ method, you can, insertion failed, insertion success. Let me see, two input parameter of T. Okay, in DQ method also you can make a that right? So returns the element based on passed in, passed out rule. Right? No element returns null. Right? This is a simple Java doc. You can see. Now let's go to the main method, main of generic, right? I'll comment all these methods, whatever we have done here, right? Let me comment this method calling, so that no print, only one print. So see, this is a user generic class or user defined class. See, now what happens in a queue? In a queue, you want to store what you want to store, right? So if I write a employee queue, I'll be only able to store employee. For an example, I will just remove this T. Now I will just remove this T to tell you how it works. I will just remove this T, right? I remove this T from everywhere. Then I will add it. For explaining, just I'm removing this T. See, now I have written this to make you understand. Now I have written the method, so it will be easy for me. I just removed this. I made it employee queue, and what I'm doing, I'm removing wherever T it is. I'm making it employee queue, right? What happened? Why this error is there? Must be defined in its own file. Okay. So let it this. I will write another class to explain this. I will copy this class. I'll create another class inside generic called employee queue, and then I'll compare both of them and explain. Right. Um, where is that? Yeah, here in generate. Employee, right? Let me paste it here and let me delete this guy, right? So see in employee queue, this T will not be there. It will be employee queue. Wherever T I have mentioned, that will be defined as employee queue. That will be defined as employee queue, right? So everywhere it is defined as employee queue. And if I want, you know, and if I want to store here in employee queue, what I will store? If I want to store in this employee queue, I will store only employee type, right? I will store only employee type because I'm creating this employee queue or holding the employee object. That is the reason I will, you know, because this queue is specific for employee queue is specific for employee. See, I have defined the array to hold employee. I have defined, the queue method to take employee. I have defined the dequeue method to return employee, right? So this is how I am going to do if it is not generic, if I have not defined the user generic type, right? So this is how it is. So let me create an object of this employee here. See what I will do here. We already have employee object. So I will create again, new employee object. Employee emp equal to or employee equal to new queue. Sorry, what is that employee queue? I have to create employee queue instance, right? Employee queue, employee queue equal to new employee queue. Dot queue method, right? Dot queue method. Here what I will do, I will add that employee object. Right? So let me do something in queue. Let me do something in queue to say that it is added. Added employee. Where I'm doing, I'm to do it in employee queue, right? So let me go to employee queue. I'll simply add, right? Here in DQ, I'll add simply remove. So let's see. Now let me run it, right? What it is saying. Null pointer access in employee.key 23. Oh, yeah. That's what I was thinking, right? And this dot array count. I have not created this object of array, right? For this object, but I'm still assigning it. I thought what I will do here, employee array, since I know it is employee type, you know, new employee, and like that, right? Right. So this is what I created an object of. I was not created that object, so that's why it threw the exception null pointer. Now it should add to the queue. Index out of 0 bound for length 0. Again, why it is index out of five? Count. Count is zero, right? Index starts from zero. Index zero out of bounds for length zero. What is that length zero here? This dot count is not equal to zero. Employee T, this dot max size T, count. Array index starts from zero, right? So count is zero. Okay. So max size 1 second, hold on. Hardcode it. Yes. Okay, so there is a there is a small problem. Maybe the reason behind that. Hold on. Where is that employee? Okay, let me go to that. Let me get this guy after the declaration of max size. Let me run it again. Huh? Yes. So the problem was here. The problem was here. I was explaining employee Q. The initialization of employee I was doing before defining the max size. That's why the size was taken as zero. You see, this is what we did added. We'll just what we'll do. We'll just print that object also for your uh, T, that object, and remove here also uh, remove here also the T, so that it is removing the same object you will see, right, by printing the two string. So let me go and do the DQ. Employee u dot DQ, right? So now let's run this program. R index out of this thing. Yeah. So basically, what happens? It is going to length and zero. Basically, what will happen? The last element which it has, it will come to the first, and we should always go less than the length. That is less than the length. That is minus one. Okay, that is minus one. Otherwise, it will throw exception. Let me run it as again. These are silly things while running. You can this logic just plus one minus one. This kind of logic you can always do yourself. See, this is what we added the same object. We added removed the same object. See, I will tell you one more thing here. Employee Q. Go to the sorry where we are adding it is and generic. So here, what we will do, we will set some values to the ID so that it will not give that some number will set. So it will. Yeah. See, whatever we inserted, we are able to remove that particular object. But here, what happened? Only employee. In this employee queue, it will take only employee. What happens if I set here student? What will happen if I create a student object? If I create a student, click here and pass the student to employee queue. It is not taking. See what it is giving error. The method queueEmployee in the type employee queue is not applicable for argument student. So it will only take your employee object. Now this is the normal implementation of Q class, right? Employee Q class. But I want to implement a class Q class which will take employee, it will take student, it will take whatever object I want to give. Then generics come into picture, and that generic is we are defining our own generic where in which class what we want, right? So here see this generic. Here I mentioned it T. and T, right? And T. Everywhere I'm mentioning T. Here also I need to create this object, right? So let me create it equal to new T dot. Yes, this is what we need to do. What it is saying. Cannot create a generic array of T. Okay, it is not going to create a generic array of T. Can't create a generic array of T. So that means we have to generic array of T. So let's see what I've done in this external view. Okay, here basically, you cannot create an array of T. So there is something way, different way I created. Let me do that here. That is using new instance. Here, what you can do here, this is not the straight way to do it. Array dot new instance, right? Array dot new instance to do this class. What this class is basically T, and this size is. I think this also will not allow us to do that. Yes, this will not do that. We have to create this, using a different approach. I'll tell you how to create this. Here in T, in T, we have to create it here. See, here we have to do T, and here this dot max size. Right? What it is saying here. This method new instance uh, class in the type array is not applicable for the argument T. Why it's getting this problem? New instance TT. That actually in this example I created it using the constructor, so that's why I this example is a little bit different. I'm expanding the queue. I'm creating the object of the queue. This is little bit different. I have done than this. Here I'm assigning the size during runtime. What is the size of this object is required. So here what we can do, we can we can while creating that object itself, right? We will define that thing. But while creating an object itself, we will define. Okay, so let's go and do that. Right. Without creating this object, new instance, there are some other ways to create new instance. Hmm. Let's see what all parameters class component type int length in the dimension object. Okay. So while creating an array instance, new instance, we can use class for the customer component type, and we can use okay, okay. So what we will do, creating a constructor. Okay, I'm trying to show you the example by Matt Miner. I don't know if I picked the right. If I picked the right, maybe two. Right. So I'm creating a constructor. Inside that constructor, I will create these. Wait, what happened? This dot array where it is? Where it all went? Okay, I've commented it. That's what I'm saying. Right. New instance class.class. If I give class.class, it is going to create the array with class.class. See, if I give your employee dot class, it will create an array of employee. But here, what we are trying to do it, we are trying to make it generic, right? When we are trying to make it generic, we need to cannot pass create an instance of employee. It should be the it should come from the generic, right? That is the reason what I did here in external queue. In external queue, I created a constructor, external queue constructor where I'm saying class T. This T is of defined of this whatever I will pass, it is of that, and create that type instance. I'm passing it here. So the same thing we are going to do it there also. So here we will create a not in queue we will create a constructor, right? And then we will override that constructor. So I'm going to generate a default constructor. How to generate from source. Use generate constructor from simple class. Use it is generate constructor from default. You know. Okay. So if I don't use any field, if I don't use any field, it should generate a default constructor. Yes. So it generated a default constructor. So in this default constructor, what I will do? I will do this dot array instance, right? And class. So what I will do in queue, I'll just pass class the generic type of mine and then this. So that here I'll pass. And this dot max size will come from the yeah. And this dot max size I'll make int static. So why static? Because this will get initialized before the class is getting initialized. All static variables or static method will get initialized before the class only, right? So before the class get initialized, they will get initialized. That's why I made static the max size. And max size I'm just using. I'm not anywhere. I'm not calculating on manipulating it, right? I'm not adding or incrementing or differently. That value is constant. So that is the reason I made it max size I made static. So all constant values you can always use static, and you can always use a keyword called final. And and we are using it in only inside this class. So private final static in max size, right? And T array. This is the array which we are assigning, right? This is the array which we are assigning here. Let me take all these values, the variable declaration. Uh, Let me take all these variable declaration. Never, right? So this is how, see, this session is going little more. Bear with me. You have to when we're writing our own code, and so I'm always going with practical oriented implementation. So you have to stay with me, and we're done. We're already done. I have to run it and show you. So see, Now this is done. Always this max size you should not write anymore this because it is static. This class variable. That's all. Size. It's a constant, right? Yeah, you can if you want you can write also. It's not an issue. See, here it is. This is how it goes. Let this be there. Right. So now we have created the instance of array with a max size of 20 and the class type is whatever will pass. Let's go to the generic, main generic, in this method. Now we'll comment it out, right? There we got the issue in queuing method and dequeue method, right? In queue method, now we are already created during the invoking the constructor, right? In DQ method, what we are doing in DQ method, we have to just reduce one length here, right? That's all. So we are done here. Let me go to main generic and run it. I have created employee. First, we'll go with the employee here. And let me undo these all. So employee is there. So I will don't need any more employee queue. Right. So what I will do, I will create queue instance here. Right. In this generic, what I'll pass employee. So this should be my queue instance, right? Employee. And I will pass the same here variable. I'll take the same so that I will not have an issue. Employee queue equal to new. See, we have only one constructor that is with parameters employee, employee, and here to here I pass employee dot class l plus employee dot class because I'm going to create an array instance with employee dot class. Right now, I'm inserting it inside. See from line number 46 to 51. If you have any concern, any doubt, any clarification need, you can always call me. Always you can mail me, always you can message me, always you can comment on my YouTube comment section, mail me on my mail ID, message me over the LinkedIn. Yeah, so here I will run it. See how it what it gives us. If there is no error, everything will be fine. Employees added to queue, that it printed, right? So DQ I have not printed any that message, so it's not showing. So what we will do, we will just modify this message. I will print it like added and to queue, then we'll print the object, right? What is that object? T. The same thing will print in the DQ while dequeuing it. Remove from queue T and queue, right? This is what we have to do. Let's go and run it. Now we should see it is removing from the queue. See, removed from the queue and it is the same object. Now what I will do, I will try to dequeue, I will try to dequeue without adding it to it. To see, it should throw, it should return me or it should tell empty. Remove queue, remove from queue is equal to, remove from queue is equal to null. So there is some logic, again, some condition check here and there. So we have to go and see what is there. Why I'm going to let me close. Okay, why I'm going to external queue. Yeah. It is in queue, right? So queue dequeue. It should say queue is empty. But what it is saying? It is saying removed from the queue. It is going there. It is not showing this thing, right? So better what you do, this dot count, int dot count equal to always put it -1, right? And if this RDQ is equal to -1, right? Is greater than -1, Then do this. If it is less than -1, then print it. How? Still it is the same. Hold on. Let me check. In Q, what is there? If it is greater than -1, now it's see this dot count. What we am checking here? The RL length, right? Okay. Rather checking the RL length, we can always check the count. We can always check the count. If this dot count is -1, that means it is no value is there. See, there are different algorithm you can use to print it. I'm showing just one kind of algorithm. Implement queue is empty, right? I'm saying one kind of algorithm, and let me go and check you when the queue is full. No, that is also another condition which I have to make it correct. So what I will do, I will go and iterate over something like this. Here I'll make it 21, right? More than 20, and I will add this object here. I'll create this object there inside that, right? So I will create it here. See, this video is only for freshers or engineering students or computer application students because they asked me to share my knowledge, their knowledge on programming languages to them. I am doing this video for students, not for any professional person or individuals. If any professional need any clarification and they have any doubt, they want to learn from me, they need to come to me or they need to mail me. I will have one-to-one session. I can explain them. Right? So here, this is how we will do. We will create new 20 objects and insert it into the employee. And then after that, I will show how I can make it student also. Right? So this is I'm queuing it. So let me run it. And DQ, only fast one we will DQ. Only one. R index out of bound in for length. Okay, so see this when you run this, no, sometimes something will be missing or something will be around there. That we can manage it here. So you see here checking this dot count is not equal to this dot max size. So should be the index starts from 0. So it should be this dot max. It will go till in 19, right? So -1. If it is -1, then it should work. Why it is -1? Because 20 is not the size, right? We should go till 19. Till it is, index -1 out of the bound. Okay, so I got confused. Index -1 out of the bound for 20. So when we're going to this, if this dot count equal to this dot max size, then what happened? What we did here, we made it -1 this dot kind, right? We did a modification. We did it -1. And when we're trying to insert, we're calling the queue. And when we're calling the queue, when we're initializing this, we're calling the queue method. And queue method, it should be, what condition we should have? We should have here if one more is dot count -1. All right. So here, make it this dot count equal to 0. Assign it to 0. If it is not -1, then no need of assigning it to 0. That's what we did. Where I did these changes, I did it in employee or somewhere. See, this how happens. Let me close this employee class. Close this employee class. Employee queue. I been doing it in employee queue. Yeah. This is the queue. Here we did -1, right? Yes. And here we should have that method. Before having that method, Yeah. So now if you go, let us run it, generate. Mhm. See, we queue is full, right? Queue is full. It is showing now queue is full. How many item it added? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 element it added. And queue is full. It removed the first one, right? See ID first one. But you cannot see for fast because all the IDs are same. To make the ID seems bit different, what I can do, I can make here while adding plus I. Right? I added I to that. That means I added one more string to it. So now let's see if the IDs are coming different so that you can always identify the first element is got removed. See 6, 8. This is the first added element, right? That first added element got removed, right? So when you're removing only one. So this is how to verify and test your, all the this thing. And now if you call DQ 20 time, more than 20 time, what will happen? No, let's do that also. So QMT we have seen. Now it should say what? It should say Q is empty after removing all the after 20 items. Right? The queue is full. It removed 23, 21, 23. What is the last item? It removed last item is 23. It removed the last item. So what I should do, it removed the last item and queue is not empty, it is saying. Let me, let me run it again. So I think we need to add on one more condition there. Yeah, queue is empty, not required. See, queue is empty, right? Queue is empty now it is. So see, basically this is how you can use your you can write your algorithm. Now I will show you something different here. This, if I change it to student, I change it to student, this employee, if I change it to student, is going to work. See what I will do here. I have to create student object, right? Since I am passing, I'm creating a generic queue with student, so I have to use student everyone now. Right? See, now I created an object of student. I am passing the student now. I will run it. It will insert 20 objects. It will null point access somewhere mentioned it 50. Oh, it is student, right? Yeah. Set ID. So I don't have any ID in student. Let me create a ID here. String ID. Or I can comment that line. No, better let's create it. No, let's create it. Public ID equal public ID, right? Let's generate certificate of it. Certificate also got generated. It is got to main generate. Now it should not throw any exception. See, it is not throwing any exception. Queue is full. You see here queue is full. You see here queue is empty, right? So see, there is one thing here, 22. It should not say in 22 queue is empty. It should say in 21 queue is empty. The calculation there might be, some in this dequeuing method somewhere might be this count whatever I am doing, checking. So somewhere might be some issue. So you can always look into this and check it out how it works. So now this for student it worked, right? This is employee and student are basically non-primitive data type which we created. So if you go with let's say inbuilt data type, inbuilt non-primitive data type like string, that also will work. I will show with string you now. String here, right? So I created string here, and in this no more student. Here no more student. What it will be? It will be string. Let's say string. Directly I can add string here, right? Like this. String. Let's say something. I can plus I, right? Let me run it now. So this became a generic one, right? See, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 19. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 19. I am removing 19 twice because of some issue. That is the reason I said if we go with values, we'll be unable to understand what is the issue. So it is removing 19 twice. You know why? Because we are moving this array ahead, and that's the reason the last value always it is getting removed twice. So you need to just check or you need to block the or the calculation part, right? You need to check where it has gone wrong. I will do it after this session. This session has been long time now, and I will show you this program tomorrow again with that value, and I will tell you where went wrong. So this is how when you use your or when you try to create your own generic implementation, it is always best to go with this way, and that is one of the advantage of generic. In coming session, next session, what I will do, I will discuss lambda expression. That is also another beautiful way to implement functional interface. We'll talk about the lambda expression. After lambda expression, we will go for thread, and then I think almost we are done with Java. So this is how generic works. Today's session, I will keep it here. Today's session, I'll keep it here. Okay. Thank you everyone for watching this session. We will meet in coming session. Thank you everyone.